Good afternoon. My name's Todd Gungle. I'm part of the Alumni Board. I'm from Oklahoma City. I'm a Catholic school principal there, about ready to start our 15th year. And I know I'm really excited about our presenter this afternoon. Hispanic Latino ministry has definitely become a hot topic. I know my school's 60% Latino now, so I'm really excited to hear what our guest has to say with her work up here. So without further ado, I'll introduce her. We have Anna Perez, who's introducing to us this afternoon. Anna moved from Mexico to the United States when she was 15 years old. She studied at Marion Heights Academy in Fernando before the school ultimately closed. She then graduated from Heritage Hills High School. She studied social science at Oakland City University and graduated with her bachelor's degree in 2005. She is currently pursuing a master's degree from St. Meinrad School of Theology. Anna serves as director of the Office of Hispanic and Latino Ministry here at St. Meinrad, where she creates strategic formation programming for seminarians, priests, deacons, and lay leaders around Hispanic and Latino ministry. Please join me in welcoming Anna Perez.
Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be able to share a little bit of Hispanic ministry, being Hispanic myself and having worked at a parish as the Hispanic ministry coordinator before. I know a thing or two about Hispanic ministry, but today we're not going to talk about what I know. I would like to share about what St. Meinrad knows. First of all, I want to talk about or introduce what the definition of Hispanic Latino is. Many of us sometimes question or don't exactly know who a Hispanic or Latino is. The U.S. Census Bureau defines a Hispanic or Latino as a person with origins from Spanish-speaking Latin American countries, such as Mexico, Puerto Rico, or Cuba, regardless of race. The term can also include people from other Latin American countries, such as Central and South America, or the Dominican Republic. So the information that I'll be sharing today with you guys is a research study that Springtide Research Institute conducted back in 2021 for St. Meinrad, including a survey of Hispanic Latino Catholic young people to establish how they are or are not connecting with their faith. A tailored analysis of secondary data from Springtide's data set about the same population, and interviews with current faith leaders in the field to understand their work and challenges. To design the research project, Springtide conducted discovery calls with St. Meinrad stakeholders to identify the set of clarified objectives listed in the report. And I would like to start with a data analysis. Objective 1. Develop a snapshot of the demographic of St. Meinrad's Hispanic Latino constituents. A significant majority of the participants are deeply connected to their Hispanic Latino identity, exhibiting pride, connection, and loyalty to their cultural traditions and family. Over half speak and read in both English and Spanish, and nearly a third speak mostly Spanish at home. It is important for faith leaders to understand and celebrate the heritage, language, and culture of their congregation. The presence of Hispanic community in your diocese is a gift. They are a gift to the church. They have gifts to offer to the church. You don't need to be paternalistic to meet their needs. There are unique circumstances, but they need to be seen as an asset. Objective number 2, understand how Catholic Hispanic Latino people connect to their faith. Faith leaders need to recognize that faith and practice are complicated for their congregants. They feel connected to faith as part of their Hispanic Latino identity. But there are barriers to participating in standard faith practices, including a lack of trust for organized religion. However, they experience faith deeply as they believe in miracles, witness God's direct response, share that they have had moving spiritual experiences, and they commit to God in their lives. This indicates the faith is experienced outside of services and activities. Leaders should be able to offer experiences for these congregants that allow people to express and experience their faith beyond the walls of the church. Hispanic families have a huge challenge in the U.S. Youths are trying to be accepted by their own culture and also American culture. So even inside families, Spanish language is a barrier, but also cultural learning that makes transferring religion even more complicated and more important to preserve Hispanic culture. There is not a systematic formation or preparation for faith leaders to serve Hispanic youth, and Hispanic youth are dealing with a crisis of faith because of the integration in the U.S. culture. Our youth feel like they don't belong. They're not part of the, let's say, their parents' background originally. We experience this a lot in my parish. Our youth have a lack of identity because they don't feel like they belong to the community, to the Hispanic community, but also they don't feel like they belong to the Anglo community. And we have a struggle, and I don't know how many people and how many faith leaders realize this. I see what a lack of commitment to this youth there is in our parishes, in our diocese. It's a very sad fact because we are realizing that, or we have noticed that there is a certain age where our youth are no longer coming to church. But they have checked out way before we realized that they're not coming to church. Why? Because these kids are coming to church with their parents to Spanish Mass. But have we realized that their first language is not Spanish, it's English? Because these kids are born here. They go to school here. And every Sunday, they go to Mass in Spanish because they want to be with the family, because they're coming with their parents. But have we realized that they're not learning much about the faith? How can they learn if they're not understanding what is being said during Sunday Mass? And that is a challenge that the church needs to realize and needs to work on it. Our youth, they're not the future. They are the church. So we really need to work on doing something to provide some kind of spiritual nourishment to our youth. Right now, Meinrad is doing something, is helping. We are offering a youth retreat for only Hispanic youth. Why? Because we have also realized that with this lack of identity, our youth, every time you try to offer or start a youth group, a parish youth group, you don't have participation from the Hispanic youth. Why? We go back to they don't feel like they belong. So in talking with several people, and seeing that this is a reality in many dioceses and many parishes, we decided to offer a youth retreat here at Meinrad just for our youth, our Hispanic youth, in hopes of helping encounter or discover that identity, that important identity as children of God. And eventually we can close that gap between feeling left out in one culture or another and just bring everybody together. But right now, I think we need to try to provide what they need and not push them to wanting them to be included in the American culture, because they're not there yet. Mentally, they're not there yet. Third objective, attract and retain the Hispanic Latino population and develop ways to support them. Congregations to serve Hispanic Latino populations are often in communities with diminished resources, and most would benefit from help to access resources. The needs tend to change quickly. Leaders who develop relationships with their congregants can establish trust by being authentic and transparent. Shared values and trusted relationships lead to belonging, and people need to belong before they will practice belief. Recognize that you have a community that needs resources. Make that a mission of the church, and then train yourself and others on how to serve that mission. Hispanic faith leaders are natural leaders, and they're hungry to be a key part of the future of the church. One key is integrating them. The most important thing for Hispanic youth is to find a place to belong, to know where they belong. Objective number 4. Determine perceptions about intercultural competency and skills of faith leaders. Participants believe the faith leaders are apprehensive about connecting with Hispanic Latino people, primarily because they do not have enough information about what people need, are afraid of appearing ignorant, and face language barriers. Leaders need to demonstrate that they have a firm understanding of the overall needs of the people, and that they are committed to overcoming language barriers. Once primary needs are met, people will be able to focus on faith formation. I think it's helpful to hear from Hispanic folks what they need and want. There is the hesitation of not being prepared, or of offending and just not knowing what is needed. The culture of the church needs to support multicultural ministry. The faith leaders need to create that culture. That means that theological education needs to create a multicultural, pastoral environment. How to make them feel welcome. When we asked this question, 53% of them said, connecting with those who share my values. 52 responded, being included in conversations. 45%, someone saying hello. 36%, being invited to participate in activities. 34%, seeing those who look like me. 33%, when people listen to what they have to say. 32%, connecting with those who understand their culture. And 26%, sharing meals with people. Participants feel most connected to faith leaders when 50% responded when they have face-to-face conversations. 32% responded they make an effort to understand me. 32% they include people like me. 25% we connect on social media. 24% they are there during difficult times in their lives. 33% they text me. 20% when they receive a call. 19% when they receive an email. Objective number 5. Understand what values will help faith leaders to be relatable. The primary values drawing and engaging young people include the following: inclusion and welcoming, treating people equally and creating spaces where everyone feels safe and welcome. Meaningful, living according to one's faith values and acting on one's personal mission in life. Authentic, being one's authentic self, demonstrating one's faith outwardly, being free to do things in one's own way. Relational, social, fostering deep relationships centered on service to others and having a faith community. Accountability, holding oneself and others responsible, owning up to mistakes and making things right. Impactful, doing good in the world and showing care for the environment. Growthful, fostering growth and learning to support personal development. Leaders need to understand these values and should make them an intentional part of the congregation's culture. Hispanic Catholics are asking questions about justice, social justice, questions about identity, questions about racism, and all those kinds of things. The church needs to be talking about those things to accompany people there. Otherwise, they are not going to feel like there's an authentic voice in the church. Objective number 6, examine springtide measures to learn about future served populations, ages 13 to 25. Young people will connect if they can be their whole selves, but many do not believe faith leaders of their community share the same values. Leaders need to visibly connect to values and issues concerning young people. Additionally, leaders need to listen to young people and allow them space to ask questions without trying to answer them all. They also need to foster ways to make them feel they belong. Faith leaders need to learn that theological reasons for connecting to the different issues that young people care about and dimensions of their lives. We are not connecting the image and message of Christ, of faith, with what young people are facing in their lives. I'm gonna go ahead and give some highlights of these objectives. Going back to objective number 1. Participants are deeply connected to their Hispanic Latino identity, culture, and background. Leaders should be trained to understand, encourage, and celebrate the culture of congregants as part of the holistic culture of their congregations. Language is a significant part of their connection to culture and family. So leaders need to embrace language as a standard part of the culture of the congregation. Faith leaders of all races, ethnicities, and cultures must be formed to serve a multicultural context. It was recommended for San Meinrad to make multicultural leadership a required offering to develop a standard culture of inclusion and celebration of differences. The highlights for objective number 2. Participants feel that faith is an intrinsic part of their Hispanic Latino identity. But faith leaders need to recognize that faith and practice are complicated for their congregants. Participants are spiritual and experience faith in powerful ways, just not necessarily within the church. Leaders should be able to offer experiences for these congregants that encourage and enable people to express and experience their faith beyond the walls of the church. The highlights for objective number 3. Faith leaders in communities that experience resources shortages and fluctuating stability need to be skilled in innovating and change management to respond to the needs of and support their congregation in a meaningful way. Leaders need to be community builders who can reach across cultural divides to develop cohesive partnerships. Additionally, authentic and intentional leaderships with faith leaders are key to attracting and retaining the Hispanic Latino population. Shared values and trusted relationships lead to belonging, and people need to belong before they practice beliefs. Highlights for objective number 4. Participants want faith leaders to focus on addressing the needs of the people that they serve, including offering services such as meals or daycare in addition to helping with spiritual formation. Leaders need to demonstrate that they have a firm understanding of the needs of Hispanic Latino communities and that they are committed to overcoming language barriers. Once primary needs are met, people will be able to focus on participating in services and spiritual faith formation. Faith leaders can successfully gain language and cultural knowledge proficiency through immersion programs, opportunities, and programs. San Meinrad offers this opportunity for our seminarians and our co-workers as well, I believe. Objective number 5, highlights. Leaders should have a deep and comprehensive understanding of the values of congregants. Embodying these values will attract Hispanic Latino communities and help leaders develop trusting, supportive, and meaningful relationships with them. Leaders should demonstrate that they acknowledge and honor the experiences of Hispanic Latino individuals that have led to their core values. Objective number 6. Participants shared that they do not believe that faith leaders share their values. Leaders need to learn ways to speak about issues and values from a theological perspective to show that they care about major issues without having to take a specific stance. Faith leaders are taught to think theologically, but must learn to apply that theology critically. Faith leaders need to be able to translate and communicate to congregants how the Bible relates to understanding and responding to modern issues that young people care about. Leaders need to address values and issues because young people will not engage with organizations that do not openly share their values or address major issues. This study illustrates how young Hispanic Latino people feel about their faith and the intersection it has with their culture in order to understand how future faith leaders can be taught to serve them better. Additionally, practicing faith leaders in the field corroborate and enhance the data story, while also offering suggestions about designing innovative pathways forward. Meinrad is committed to deepening its understanding of Hispanic Latino people. It serves by developing more robust, inclusive, and effective programming. The data in this study indicate that faith leaders need multicultural skills, formation with an emphasis on innovative programming for Hispanic Latino people. Faith leaders will need to be change managers, community builders, and stewards of their congregation's cultures to foster belonging. They will need to embody the values of young people and apply theology to major issues to help lead important discussions and actions surrounding what the young people care about. Accompanying the Hispanic Catholic people in the United States through the Hispanic ministry requires that we be attentive to all these realities, that we discuss them in our communities, that we think about responses, and that we act inspired by the richness of our Christian faith. In some parts, the Hispanic population is barely growing, but little by little, it is transforming entire communities and demanding spiritual accompaniment. Latinos are present in all Catholic dioceses in the United States, which requires a pastoral response. Hispanic ministry in the United States is the responsibility of the entire church, from bishops to parish pastoral agents and catechists. For this reason, it is urgent that every pastoral training program, especially seminaries, universities that prepare theologians and pastoral ministers, and pastoral institutions be spaces to create awareness of this reality. Even when the Latino presence is small or does not yet exist at the parish level, it is a pastoral responsibility for Catholics in the United States to know and enter into dialogue with the Hispanic Catholic experience. This is all I have for you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me? All right.
So early on in your talk, you said something that Hispanics, Latinos have an inherent distrust of formalized religion, I think is what you were saying. What is the reason for that?
To be honest, why did I ask questions?
I'm sorry, and just early on, I've never heard that, and I didn't know if there's something particular going on with the churches from their home country that make them apprehensive about that, or if it's something about the U.S. churches that are making them.
Maybe, and this is just my thinking. I mean, this is what the research gave us. This is what these people responded. I honestly, I don't have a concrete answer to your question, but it makes me, being Hispanic, I'm gonna say that the fact that they don't feel like they belong to a church maybe contributes to that lack of, feeling that trust.
Maybe what you may have heard is you said participants are spiritual and experience faith in powerful ways, but not necessarily within the church. And I think that sometimes, because of work schedules, and sometimes other factors, maybe that people have a strong spirituality at home, strong popular devotions and so forth, but maybe aren't in church.
And that goes back to, yes, with the Hispanic community, there is our faith is based a lot of times on popular devotions, like you said, but the theology is not there. So the lack of formation, it's a big issue in the Hispanic community as well. Yes?
I don't know where people were surveyed for this survey, but everything that you said resonates very well with what we experienced in my diocese in Beaumont, Texas, and Southwest Texas. And it's all very true. One thing that you said was that sometimes people do not believe that their faith leaders share their values. And by faith leaders, I'm assuming it's probably referring to non-Hispanic pastors like myself who are ministering to multicultural communities. Can you give some examples of what you mean by that disconnect in terms of values?
Like I said, the faith in the Hispanic culture is heavily based on popular devotions, and maybe there is I was talking to my coworker the other day, and we were talking about the difference between how faith is practiced in the Hispanic culture and how it's practiced in the American culture. The faith in the Hispanic culture is a lot of times based on feelings, and maybe that's what the disconnect is between the pastor and the community. Maybe it's hard for the community to understand where the pastor is coming from, since it's, like I said, there is a lack of formation in the community. So sometimes it's about feelings. A lot of the things that we do is about feelings. But if the formation is not there, it's hard to follow up. It's hard to have a conversion or be committed to the church, feel committed to the church if you're gonna base everything on feelings, if there is nothing backing that up. So I think maybe that's where there is the disconnect. And pastor, if faith is time, or it's more, I don't remember what the word that you used that time when we were.
Yeah, I think also not to piggyback on this, but in my office I work with young adults, and there's so much overlap between the data on Hispanic and Latino communities and young adults. So I think there tends to be this distance, or this perceived distance between what's happening, among those in charge and what's happening on the ground. I think you could say that about just about every community. But we were talking about it can be more, what was the word we used? There's like a logic to it, or it can feel very methodical versus not including that experiential, that lived experience of the faith. And it can feel like there's a separation between, I have to check my feelings at the door and come into church and kind of go through the motions in some ways. So it can almost feel disjointed in that way. I don't know if that's what you were getting to.
Yeah. for example, and this is something that people have told me, you know, when you don't come, you know, in the American culture, you know, Catholics, they know they have to go to Sunday Mass every Sunday. In our culture, we are very devoted, and we love God, we believe in miracles, but we don't feel like we need to go to church every Sunday. We feel like, okay, if this Sunday I feel excited, I feel like I want to go to church, I'll go to church. But if next Sunday I don't have that feeling, I'm not gonna be there. So that's what we were talking about, how in the American culture, you know what you're supposed to do, and you follow those rules. Not so much in our culture, and that's, I mean, I have to say that that's part of the lack of formation. There is not the, that's, I don't know if I help you any or.
I think what's called for is kind of an integration of what each culture can learn from one another.
Yes.
And now each culture is in itself informed by the church, what the church expects.
Yes.
But there has to be an integration of reason and feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think Agnes had a question.
Oh, my question was, I also wanted to ask an example of a value that young people hold that they think that others don't. So the research referred to the respecting their values, and the values might be different than the majority culture. And could you give an example? What might that be?
The values for young people, what they think their values are.
So why would they think that the faith leaders don't respect their values or don't accept their values? Because that was one of the things that the research said.
It did say that. It did not give an explanation as to what was the reasoning. Yeah, that's just what they listed, but it didn't give examples of what those values were or why they said that.
So perhaps then pastors can follow up on that by asking, well, what are your values? Before that, say, are they values that are important in the church?
Yeah. I think the whole, the whole thing with his Latino culture, Hispanic culture, and Hispanic ministry, it's about being present for the people, learning or asking questions, like it said here, what are their needs? You won't know until you ask. And it's always gonna be, if you don't show that interest, I think somebody has to take the initiative to show interest on them and ask what they need, what their needs are. And they'll open up to you, and it'll be a whole different ministry. I see a priest here who does Hispanic ministry a lot. I don't know if that's your experience with being in Little Rock and having that much, interaction.
I've had different experiences. I've had experience in my previous parish, which was almost 100% Hispanic, and now I'm in a parish that is much more multicultural, and Hispanics are kind of coming in.
Yeah.
So it's a different experience. And one challenge is language, how to do things in both languages. And
Yeah.
with the youth, you mentioned that a lot of times they're not even perfectly comfortable in Spanish or English.
Yeah. Originally, I had a PowerPoint presentation prepared for you guys. And you know how God changes your plans in 1 second? So last night, I had this whole thing prepared already, and last night I felt like he talked to me and he wanted me to share this information with you guys instead of what I had already prepared. But talking about, the youth and in the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation that I have prepared for you guys, it talked about the different levels of the identification with Hispanic Latino culture. And this was very interesting because it was the first time I heard about it. I was not aware. But it talked about the nuclear Hispanic Latinos, the bicultural Hispanic Latinos, the marginal Hispanic Latino, Hispanic Latino fleeing from his culture, Hispanic Latino returning to the culture, assimilating Hispanic and Latino. And it gives a description of every group here. The nuclear Latinos are described are those people who live almost completely within the Hispanic Latino community and have very little contact with the Anglo culture. Many times, these people are recent immigrants or people who migrated when they were older adults. The majority of these people speak Spanish as their principal or only language. This is a group of Hispanics that you deal with in your parish. That is not the only group. We have the bicultural Hispanic Latino. These people live their lives negotiating between American culture and the Hispanic Latino community culture. They understand the cultural rules of each group and can fit in either. The majority of these people were born or raised in the United States. Generally, they are fully bilingual and can speak both languages without an accent. Then we have the marginal Hispanic Latino. These people have not disconnected themselves from Hispanic Latino culture, but they only identify with it in an occasional manner. They like some of the Hispanic Latino cultural artifacts such as food, music, etc., and they enjoy spending time with the Hispanic Latino community, but they live their lives according to their patterns of American culture. Then we have the Latinos fleeing from their culture, and believe me, there is a group out there. This group of people are actively trying to be part of the American culture and are sure the best way to do it is by disconnecting from anything Hispanic Latino. Some refuse to speak Spanish or to relate to other Hispanic Latinos. Others attempt to deny their Hispanic Latino roots by anglicizing their names. Even though they may not deny their past, they see it as part of the past and as a burden in this country. Their desire and goal is to incorporate into U.S. culture as soon as possible. Hispanic Latinos returning. In this group, we have Hispanic Latinos returning to their culture. Typically, this group is a second, third, or fourth generation. This group wants to discover and strengthen their Hispanic Latino identity. Some of these people were raised within the Anglo culture, but now want to reclaim aspects of their Latino identity. Assimilating Hispanic Latinos. These persons identify as Hispanic or Latino when reporting to the U.S. Census Bureau, but their cultural expressions and lifestyle are completely of American culture. They do not have significant Latino cultural features, only a historical memory that their ancestors were from Latin America or the Spanish-speaking world. They do not identify with the Latino community and reflect the success of the assimilating effort to U.S. society. And why do I say that this group exists? I have 6 kids, and I identified some of my kids in some of these groups. My oldest one, he's 17. If you ask him where he's from, if he's Hispanic, he is Hispanic, and he feels proud of being Hispanic. I have a 14-year-old. If I ask him if he's Hispanic, he's gonna say no. I'm American. He doesn't speak Spanish. So I see like I said, I had never seen this information. When I was reading through it, I could identify myself because of my kids. I was born and raised in Mexico. I moved here when I was 15. But I do feel like, I identify with a group here. And it's just, it's a reality out there. I think, and it's a challenge in the parishes because you don't only have a group of Hispanic Latinos. There is so many identities within that group and so many different challenges the pastors, leaders face, Hispanic ministry is not easy. Any other questions?
So in this research that did you distinguish between these different groups? Or you kind of lump them all into the same same pot, and here's the research? Because I think there's a difference between a newly immigrant coming to the U.S. and second generation Hispanic so was that ever considered in
No. I don't believe it was. That I've been working here in San Meinrad for about a year and 8 months. That research was done before I even started, but I don't think that was considered there.
Focused on age 13 to 35.
And that's what I mean. You guys have so many challenges out there in the parishes because of that fact that we have, like you said, we have recent immigrants that, you have to provide formation or you have to provide different services totally in Spanish because that's their language. But then we have our youth who, they only speak English. It's even though they're Hispanics, they're from Hispanic descendant, their first language is English. So trying to accommodate everyone in the parish is not easy. Cassie?
Can you talk a little bit about the Hispanic ministry youth group that you do here that kind of addresses those demographics?
Sure. Last year, we started a Hispanic Sunday ministry with our seminarians and deacons and invited the Hispanic community to join us to come here for formation. Like I said, formation is very limited in many parishes. So St. Meinrad is here to provide and to be a resource for those parishes that don't have those resources. So we started a Sunday ministry for youth and for adults. We had deacons who speak Spanish, they're not Hispanic, but they're learning the language and they're pretty fluent. So we invited the community, the adults, to come every Sunday and do catechesis with them. It's totally in Spanish. And then we had a group of kids who came as well, and it was totally in English. And it was amazing how much they learned. Honestly, I thought they just came to have fun because it's a beautiful place. The seminarians are pretty fun to be around. So when we started this, I was like, okay, as long as we can get them there, as long as we can get them introduced to the faith, something. Towards the end of our semester, we did a kind of summary of the ministry, and they made it. Of course, it was fun. They started asking questions. There was they started giving prizes for these kids. If they answer the questions right about the faith, and they were asking questions about the faith, about what they had throughout the year. I was very surprised how much the kids learned, and how much they loved it coming here and being introduced to God, and how much they felt like they needed to tell other kids. Every time we weren't gonna have that Sunday ministry, they were so disappointed, more so than the adults. And it was just so heartwarming to see that our youth is eager and is hungry to have that, for us to provide that to them. And there is so much lack of that out there. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but it seems to me that the focus is on culture and not on religion. And in my parish, we have a mass that's totally in Spanish, and it is packed. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is maybe the focus needs to be on religion. I understand about the feelings and so forth, because I know when I go to mass and it's a wonderful choir, I feel very elevated. It's very inspiring. And I
So, I mean, perhaps the focus should be on religion. I mean, Mass is still the Mass, whether
Yeah.
it's in English or Spanish.
Mhm.
And like I said, when I attend sometimes the Masses, the Spanish Mass, it's all in Spanish, but to me, when it's, I know this is the offertory, this is the consecration, this is the communion, it's all the same. So I just feel that maybe that's what we need to focus on, because I think basically, as far as cultures, I know that Spanish value family, as much as, well, it's my family. And so, again, the idea of socializing, it means a lot, having meals together, family gatherings and so forth. So maybe, I don't know, and you just mentioned that when they learn about God, maybe that needs to be a focus, you know. Let's talk about God, whether it's in English or Spanish. Let's talk about the Catholic tradition of, you know, some saints, holy days, and so on.
I agree with you 100%, and I think that's where that's where formation comes in. So, yeah, definitely, that's very important. Deacon Ron.
You mentioned earlier that the popular emotions are very important for the Latino culture. Is that consistent from the older generation, maybe migrated from the other culture down to the younger adults and youth? They hold that popular devotion similarly, or is it changing as you get with the other ones?
It's changing a lot, a lot.
I just want to talk about that actually.
Sure.
I think that you have a lot of really excellent information here, and part of the disconnect with the youth, Hispanic youth, I think, is because there's a disconnect between Hispanics and Anglos, and what the Hispanics hold within themselves is that conflict of those cultures, that they hold that volunteer, while at the parish level, those are there's sometimes a conflict with each other, or at least coming from different perspectives at the very least. And with the Hispanic youth, they have that internal conflict themselves. So when you have the older generations having a strong popular devotion coming from their Hispanic youth and traditions from their home countries, the Hispanic youths are much more influenced by the American culture, kind of the rationalization and the meaning behind these things. And so when they're dragged along to these popular devotions, they're asking the question, why are we doing this thing, these things? And the older Hispanics are saying, this is what we've always done, and that's why we do it. And so I think a lot of the integration that we're looking for is for exactly what you're saying. Allow these two things to mutually inform each other, so that for our Hispanic adults, we need that formation. So when your kid comes back and says, why the heck are we doing this? They can say this. So we need that formation, which requires all kinds of resources like bilingual and people being able to do formation in Spanish. And for our youth, we need to give them a space to find meaning in that popular devotion. So we're not just saying, like Hispanics, you need to get formed better so that we can get along. We need to both give them that formation and create a space for their popular devotion to enrich our parish. And so that you both have devotion to God and meaning behind that devotion at the same time. What's the best thing about Hispanic youth is that they are integrating that in themselves, and they become the means really by which the parish level is transformed. I know I'm just saying a lot without a question, but I'm just hearing everyone what you're saying. You guys are all saying the same thing, and it's very hopeful.
Just to mention, could you say a few words of the formation for the adults that's happening here?
Yes, we also have, Agnes's office started this Spanish catechetical formation for the adults. The first time we met, it was back in July 2023. And she invited the Diocese of Owensboro, Archdiocese of Indy, Diocese of Evansville, Archdiocese of Louisville. And we had maybe about 60 participants, 70 participants around for adults coming to be formed totally in Spanish. The next time we had it, we had over 100 people wanting or coming for this. It's happening again this coming Saturday, August 3rd. We have about 70 people because there's other retreats, so there are things going on, so not everybody could make it. But that just, like I said, that goes to show how much of a need there is. And the people are wanting to have these opportunities to learn, to be able to, like you said, I've heard a lot of comments from moms who they're like, the kids go back to them and they're like, why do we do this? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know why we do it. And they feel frustrated because they wanna have an answer for their kids. And but like you said, we have to have resources to do this ministry. We have to have formation in Spanish, bilingual formation. And some parishes don't have that. It's not that they don't want to do it. They don't have it. And it's so difficult to find people to be willing to do this type of formation. We struggle with that around here, and I'm sure other places have the same struggle. Anything else you want me to comment on that? Okay. Father has been wanting to.
Since, as you said, the Spanish culture wants to do what you feel like doing. You feel like going to mass, you go. If you don't go. And since Jesus said you should love God with your whole mind, heart, and soul, whether you feel like it or not, should the Catholic Church then try to change the Spanish culture and to stop doing just what they feel like doing and do what God wants them to do?
Like I said, we go back to formation, the lack of formation. Maybe they've never been taught that it's a sin not to go to Sunday Mass. So if they don't know that it's a sin, they don't, they're not, there is so much, I'm from Mexico, so back in Mexico, I don't remember receiving, I received formation to do my first communion, but after that, I had nothing. So a lot of people, a lot of our Hispanic community comes from Mexico. I don't know what the reality is from other countries, but maybe they haven't had that opportunity to learn the 10 Commandments, to learn, about, what's a sin and what is not. I mean, maybe they know the basic, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to Mass. It's just a lack of formation, a lack of knowing what's right and what's wrong. For some people, not everyone.
Should we try to change that in the Hispanic culture?
Definitely. Definitely. I think it's important for them to be formed. Somebody else had a question? Oh, back there.
Just a comment. Someone once told me the Italians make the laws and the Irish and the Americans keep them. When I taught at the seminary in Baltimore, the church history professor was Italian. He was visiting his cousin who was driving the wrong way down a one-way street. And he pointed to the sign, one way, and his cousin shrugged his shoulders and said, "It's just a suggestion." And so it's not just church stuff, but their whole attitude toward laws and rules are different from those who come from Northern European ancestry. Not a question, just an observation.
Any other questions?
Just here at St. Meinrad, like, what is the best way in which we can form our seminarians in terms of entering into this multicultural spaces? Where's the place for this language development? And like, is it something that you see that St. Meinrad is seriously committed to going forward?
Well, for one, they started an Office of Hispanic and Latino Ministry, so that shows a commitment, to do something. What we started doing with our young seminarians is providing opportunities for them to get to know the culture, to experience the culture, to practice the language. There we have the blessing of having several Hispanic communities around the seminary. So we typically, if there is Our Lady of Guadalupe Novena, then we invite the seminarians to go to the parish and experience what it is, that they do for that. For Lent, we do things differently for Lent. For example, we have special meals that we eat during Lent. We invite them to be part of that. We also bring the community to San Meinrad and have gatherings, with seminarians. So they get to interact with the people, so they get to, like I said, who wants to practice Spanish, they can practice Spanish. There's also immersion program. They can go to Guatemala to learn Spanish. They can go to Mexico to learn Spanish. There is a Spanish class that they can take as well. We started doing soccer games on campus, so we can bring the youth and have, we organize teams from the Hispanic community, teams from the seminary, and they play. Afterwards, we have a gathering, we make tacos or whatever. Just providing opportunities for the seminarians to be around the community and learn about the culture and learn, the language. This coming year, we have a plan to send seminarians out to parishes with Hispanic community, because we are aware that there's not only Mexicans here, there's other nationalities. So we want them to be aware and to be exposed to those other nationalities. So we have groups going to several parishes, or we'll have that in the next coming semester, just to, maybe just be present, maybe just experience what it is for the church group to get together and pray, or catechism for the kids. I mean, just be around the adults, youth, kids. So providing those opportunities, that's what we're working on.
Are quinceañeras part of that formation for the seminarians? Have you heard about quinceañeras?
Not yet, but that's an option.
That's the
Yeah.
thing about with youth and the tradition, they're losing some of those emotional practices, but every Hispanic, and that girl turns 15, she was a quinceañera. I don't know if they understand what.
Well, actually, I think when they have their practicum class, they might, I think Father Mateo does explain what a quinceañera is, and they go through the ritual and everything. So, yeah. Any other questions?